This one's for the millionaires. Ching, ching. I am a millionaire, multi-millionaire, almost billionaire. I'm getting there. I make money in my sleep every night, on repeat while I'm resting. Money running straight to me. Money keeps coming more and more. Stacks on stacks, I don't count no more. The more I spend, the more I receive. Money is energy, it move to me. I am a millionaire, multi-millionaire, almost billionaire. I'm getting there. I make money in my sleep every night, on repeat while I'm resting. Money running straight to me. Money keeps coming more and more. Stacks on stacks, I don't count no more. The more I spend, the more I receive. Money is energy, move to me. Funny how we used to feel so big, like something hard to reach. Now it come easy. Now it come easy, now it come light. I used to make it heavy in my head, thinking about it all the time. Now I see what it is, just energy. Moving when I let it, flowing when I trust it. What felt crazy before, now it feel normal. What felt like a lot, now it feels small. I stay relaxed, that's when it responds. The less I force, the more it comes. I am a millionaire, multi-millionaire, almost billionaire. I'm getting there. I make money in my sleep every night, on repeat while I'm resting. Money running straight to me. Money keeps coming more and more. Stacks on stacks, I don't count no more. The more I spend, the more I receive. Money is energy, it move to me. I make money in my sleep while I'm resting. Money running straight to me. Money keeps coming more and more. Stacks on stacks, I don't count.
Started here. I finally figured out how to get the techno difficulties taken care of. You know, it wouldn't be a live chat with Miss Mensa unless there was a technical problem, right? Hopefully, this live stream works just fine without the internet coming and going and without the microphone overlapping. And oh my goodness, this has been fun. I've actually been trying for about an hour and a half. So sorry about that. But like I said, it wouldn't be a live stream with Miss Mensa if we didn't have some sort of glitch going on. So, how is everybody doing? It's been a long time since we've been here together. So, let's get started. I titled tonight's live chat Shanann Watts. We'll go ahead and call her Shanann because that's what her family called her. Shanann Watts and Kouri Ritchins. That his wife, Shanann, liked to appear to the world as if she was successful, right? She was a successful business owner, even though her businesses were what we call MLMs, multi-level marketing opportunities, right? And we were told shortly after the tragedy occurred that she was on business, the weekend before. She was at a business meeting, an important business meeting. But then we learned actually some sort of a sales seminar for people who had signed up to promote one of the multi-level marketing companies' products, or actually not so much the products, more like the opportunity to take control of your own wealth and your own life and to make money and to sign up your friends and to teach them a new way to live. It was a sales seminar. It wasn't a business meeting. It was a sales seminar that she probably paid a lot of money to be able to even attend. We were told that she was really high up in the ranking, that she had a lot of followers, that she was making bank. But in fact, when we looked at her Facebook account, which for some weird reason stayed active after her death, we saw that she didn't have likes on any of her posts. Maybe one, maybe two. I don't think she had any following at all. I think she had this facade that she was actually even, air quotes, working, or that there was any, air quotes, work involved. I think she was spending money. I don't think she was spending her own money. In fact, she wasn't really spending money. I think she was using credit cards. We were told that she had a stack of them. And I don't think the credit cards were necessarily in her own name. We learned that Christopher Watts actually bought the house without her after they married, or I think he bought it, was it shortly before they married that he actually did buy the house? And he bought it with very little down payment. But again, he bought it on his own. Why wasn't she on the mortgage? What was that about? And then shortly after he bought the house, he quitclaim deeded his interest in the home to both himself and to his wife, Shanann. So she didn't go on the mortgage, but boy, she got right on the deed, didn't she? And then what happened? With all of our discussions about the case of Christopher Watts, we heard over and over again that that was her house, right? She worked hard. She bought a really nice house, which, come on, really? No, Christopher Watts bought the house. And another thing that we learned was directly from Christopher Watts' mother that when Christopher Watts met Shanann, when they first met, when they first started dating, he had a perfect credit score. He had thousands. He was a master mechanic. He had a career going strong in his mid-20s. Shanann didn't have a perfect credit score. She didn't have necessarily any career path or goals except for the MLM thing. And as far as we can tell, she never had a savings account. This is just my theory on how they met and why she dated him. And it's a theory that Christopher Watts' mom, Cindy, very clearly articulated in our many conversations together. Remember, he was a master mechanic, and remember, we were told that she worked at some sort of auto parts type place. I think she saw him, checked him out. You know, it's not that hard to do, right? Like you can get a subscription to one of the Truth Finder or Ben Verified or whatever, and you can check out anybody. I think she checked him out. She probably just asked him. He was kind of a doofus. I think she learned that he was making bank. To her, I think he seemed to be making bank. And I think she decided that he was going to be her next paycheck. I do. I know that sounds cold, but I think it was cold. I don't think she would have been attracted to him at all had he not had a perfect credit score, a good savings account, and a six-figure income. Now let's look at Kouri Ritchins, the eerily similar part, okay? Where was she working? And nothing against anyone who works there at all. Good for her, right? She was a hardworking girl. But I think, was it Lowe's or Menards or Home Depot or one of those? She worked at a home improvement place. I think it was Home Depot. Which, again, good for her, right? That's a hard job. Good for her. She worked at Home Depot, and in walked her future husband, who had a great credit rating and a good savings account and a healthy income stream with his successful business. Just my opinion. I think both women were keeping their eyes open for their next paycheck. I really do. And I think the similarity is after when she met him. And I think the same can be said for Shanann Watts. I don't think she would have ever dated Christopher Watts had he not had what she perceived as a very good income stream. I think both women were shopping for a paycheck, actively, proactively looking for a man who could help them look good. And sadly, for both women, I think that they believed looking good meant that they would present themselves to the world as if they were personally successful, as if they were both hardworking, brilliant, talented, fortunate, and as if they both had some sort of special knack to bring, the abundant life, to attract abundance. Friends about how she was so successful. And we saw Shanann Watts videos where she would talk about her own success, when in fact both women owed so much money that they were basically what's known as being upside down. I'm going to flip over to the chat here and see what we have. Oh, good. Hey, guys. All right. Why are we all up in the middle of the night? That's my question. Okay, let's see what we got here. Day by Day says, hello, Miss Mensa. So nice to hear from you again. I know it's been a while. I'm going to click that one, put it up on the screen. There we go. It's been a while, hasn't it? Oh my gosh. And time goes so fast. Oh, wait, that wasn't day by day. Ooh, Inez, yay. Day by day is here also. And I'm kind of wandering through the chat here. Hold on. I just thought of something. You know how we always say the same thing when we say good night? It's been so long, I'm not sure if I can remember it. So you guys are going to have to help me with that. Day by Day says, no way she bought a house like that in North Carolina unless she stole the money. You know what? I agree with you. Or I think there was some really fishy stuff going on. Remember, too, when she bought it, it was after the housing bubble burst. Like, how did she ever get any mortgage right after the housing bubble burst? There was something fishy. Something fishy. Day by Day said she ruined his credit and he just let her. And that's the other eerily similar part of these two cases. When you think about it, it was the personality types of the men they chose. Because Shanann Watts just walked all over Christopher Watts. According to his mom, and according to the stuff that we saw posted online, he just let her. That's exactly how to say it. He just let her. And then look at Kouri Ritchins. She stole money from her husband. She took money from his house, right? I mean, he bought that house. I don't think she bought the house at all. I think he bought that house even before they got married, right? And she decided she needed some money. Like, what was it? Some ridiculous amount. I think it was like $250,000. So she went right ahead and signed the documents to get an equity line of credit going so she could have some money to start buying up houses. You know, I think if Shanann Watts was brighter, because I do think Kouri Ritchins was think she had any skills going on. And I don't think she was super smart. Don't get me wrong, because I think she was kind of I don't know, if you listen to the phone call between Kouri Ritchins and Eric's friend, she sounds like a whiny little brat who doesn't think straight. So I'm not saying that she was like any kind of, superstar at all. But I think comparing her to Shanann Watts, I think she was smarter about how she went about the whole money thing. Where Shanann Watts would just, use credit card after credit card after credit card. I think Kouri Ritchins was a little more sly, right? She knew that house carried some heavy duty equity that she figured out a way to, albeit illegally, it was illegal as all get out, but she was more conniving. She was more, I think, skillful in her deceit and her scam, really. I think scam is the word. But I also think if you have a stack of credit cards and some of the cards have other people's names on them, according to that one store owner who contacted me and said she had a deck of cards, like a stack of credit cards. She was trying to make just a small purchase when she went to North Carolina during that 6 weeks in the summer. And her cards weren't working. She was like flipping through her deck of cards one after another, and they weren't working. And that store owner said that some of the cards didn't even have her name on them. So while they had things, they both seemed to carry with them this innate need to appear as if they were rich. Were men who I think cared very much about appearances. You know, Shannon Watts isn't the only one to blame for that financial fiasco, because Christopher Watts at any point could have and should have put her husband could have and should have put a stop. Oh, wait, in the case of Kouri Ritchins, Eric Ritchins actually did figure out a way to put a stop to it, didn't he? Because when he found out, when he learned that his wife had stolen money from the equity in his home, he went to the lawyer's office and he asked the lawyer to prepare his trust documents in a way that would protect his children from his wife's spending habits, we'll call it. And then, you know, tragically for Eric Ritchins, he kept that change in his trust documents a secret from his wife. She's convicted now, as we know, of murdering him. And at the time of his death, she believed that she was going to inherit everything. But of course, after he was murdered, she learned about him going to the lawyer and changing the trust documents, leaving the assets basically for his children, for their children, but the control of their assets to his sister, not to his wife. Did you know that the day after Eric Ritchins was murdered, that his wife, Kouri Ritchins, still went ahead and closed on one of her big deals? She had a big deal going on. She bought a distressed property for a ridiculous amount of money. A distressed property that needed a heck of a lot of work and a lot more money to make it happen, because she wanted to make, you know, a quick profit on it. That was her thing. And it sounded like Eric Ritchins was not on board with that investment opportunity. But the day after she murdered him, the very next day, she closed on that deal. And then that evening, one day after she murdered him, one day, that evening, she threw a party. And she enjoyed that party. From the sounds of things, she enjoyed drinking anyway, whether there was a party or not. But she was drinking and she was dancing and she was singing and laughing and just having a great time. The day after she murdered her husband, I think during her little party that she believed she would never have to worry about money again in her life. And I think that's a good point for how both Shanann Watts and Kouri Ritchins became the women they became. I think at some point in their lives, and I think it was probably at some point in their childhood, they felt less than. We'll use one of Shanann Watts' little phrases, right? I think they felt less than their peers. I think that they somehow, as children, learned that money mattered more even than people. I think at some point in their childhoods, they both learned that money was more important than the truth. That money somehow defined the person. I think they also learned in their childhoods that they didn't want to have to work. That work wasn't really for them. That somehow they were entitled to not have to work. That they could just kind of ride on their looks and their charm. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. We're going to take a look at chat again here. I know we had a few lining up with the other one that I couldn't get the sound to work on. So I hope that they see that we're live again on this one. I hope they can find us. And I'm not sure who's on which channel either, because we're putting this to both Lady Justice and Miss Mensa channels. So we'll see here. I know there was a there was something released today on the case of Kouri Ritchins, which sounded like it would be interesting. I haven't watched it, though. Today was a busy day. So if you guys saw that, let me know what you thought of it. Another weird similarity between the two women is that they both knew, I think, deep down that their marriages were over. I kind of wonder if either one of them really thought their marriages ever really began. Because if they married for money or for what they thought would be money, then really was it a forever thing? I don't know. Now, in Kouri Ritchins' case, it's interesting because we were told that at the wedding, Eric Ritchins' mother presented I don't know if she prepared it. I'm not sure, but there was a premarital agreement that Eric Ritchins' mother insisted that Kouri Ritchins sign before she would be allowed to marry Eric Ritchins. And I thought that was interesting that she would have even signed it, right? Because that doesn't fit with what I'm thinking about how she was just kind of shopping for a husband and figured he made enough money to, to make her look good. So why would she have signed any sort of premarital agreement unless she just really believed in her ability maybe to get him to change his mind or something? But then when you dig in a little bit, you find out that she was supposed to still inherit certain things in the event he died during their marriage, as opposed to if they got divorced. You see what I'm saying? Could it be that when she signed that contract and she saw the clause about how if he were to die during their marriage, that she would in fact inherit certain parts of his wealth, that she thought, yeah, why not sign it? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know that's really cold. I know that's really callous. But it seems to me that if it was love, and if on her wedding day, all of a sudden her future mother in law presented a contract for her to sign, that she would have said no. I know on the surface it might appear the opposite, right? If she was marrying for love and not money, then she wouldn't mind signing. But if it's true that she met this guy and fell head over heels in love and wanted to marry and have his babies and before the wedding, that would have really broken her heart. That would have really been offensive to her. That would have just, she would have crumbled feeling that her future husband's family didn't trust her one bit, right? I don't think she would have signed it if it was for love that she was and figured, oh, well, looky there. Looky there. Even though if they divorced, she would have ended up with zilch. I think she saw the part about how if he died during the marriage, she would be literally raking it in. I know that sounds terrible, but I think it was that terrible. And as that case proceeded at her trial, it was like the more we learned, the more terrible it was. And she didn't just screw her husband, she was screwing her friend too. I think, wasn't it her best friend? Who she said, hey, give me some money. This will be your house. You make the payments. I'll get you the financing. And then she somehow finagled it to where she sold the house to somebody else. Her friend's down payment was 45 grand. And then think about Shanann Watts. Think about her and her air quote friends. Hey, sign up here, buy this product. Sign up. You can live like me. Woohoo. Let's all get rich quick together. Let's all at least pretend like we're getting rich together. Shanann Watts actually bought an article in Word magazine for it, might be a little too generous, but she paid for an article and probably wrote it herself, I'm sure. I'm not sure, but yeah, she probably did. About how successful she was. What a great scheme for marketing an MLM. use that article to try to get more people to pay you money to sign up. What a tricky little scheme. In both of these cases, Shanann Watts and Kouri Ritchins both seem to have just this never-ending need to pretend that they were successful. And they had a never-ending need for more. They couldn't just be happy with what they had, right? Couldn't be happy with that. They needed more. They needed to be at the very top of their game. They needed to surround themselves with people who believed their bullshit. If you listen to that phone conversation between Kouri Ritchins and Eric Ritchins' friend, like a whiner. Earlier when I said she was smarter than Shanann Watts, please don't mistake that for me saying that Kouri Ritchins was smart. When she tried to appear as if she had this cerebral thing going on. Kouri Ritchins, I think, was able to articulate a little better. But you listen to that phone conversation when she was talking, what was it, Bryce, I think? I might be wrong. One of his friends. And she was saying things like, I made money. I've made, she's talking, I made money. I made millions of dollars. And she was trying to justify the fact that she stole $250,000 from the equity in the house. And I mean it. She stole it. She didn't come by it with any right to have it at all. She signed her husband's signature without his knowledge, without his consent, without any right to do so. She signed her husband's signature to steal $250,000 out of the house equity. That is a serious crime, a very serious crime. And there she was on the phone once she learned that she wasn't in charge of the money after his death, after she murdered him. There she was on the phone sounding like a whiny little brat, trying to convince his friend that what she did was right. Telling his friend that they had millions of dollars. She turned $250,000 into millions of dollars with all of her smart investments because she believed in herself. She believed in herself. Where did we hear that before, right? Look at the case of Christopher Watts. Two women, both, in my opinion, marrying men to basically use them for their money. Just imagine how miserable both women were in those marriages. Just imagine how miserable both men were in those marriages. I think it's great that Eric Ritchins went and changed his documents. His wealth. And he was concerned, of course, about her spending after the way she had already stolen money from him. So, okay, he stood up, at least to protect his children, but why did he stay in that marriage? Why did Christopher Watts stay in that marriage? What is it about both men that they stayed with women who it just had to be obvious to them were only there for the money? You see what I'm saying? And I'm not blaming eerily similar point to both of these cases. Just kind of something to consider. Remember years ago, we used to say that Shanann Watts built a house of cards and it came, crumbling down. I think Kouri Ritchins did the same thing. And in both cases, of course, as we know, then tragedy soon struck. So, on that note, I'm going to take off. We're going to keep this one short tonight. So, help me with our don't forget to take your vitamin D. Eat fish. Don't take it in a pill. I think we used to say eat salmon, actually. What else did we say? Be safe, be healthy. Become happy, because life's too short to be living your life without being happy. Be safe, be healthy, be happy. Don't forget to take your vitamin D. Eat salmon. I think I might be forgetting a few things, so help me out in the chat if you would. And I know that we always ended our live chats with reminding you to always remember that you are loved. I'm glad you came to take part in the live chat tonight. We're going to do another one tomorrow night on the cases of Donna Adelson and Tracy Grist, two grandmothers who decided evidently that their lives would be so much sweeter if their son-in-law was murdered. Two grandmothers who I think were way too involved in their daughters' lives. Way too involved. Way too controlling. And just, in my opinion, just way too evil. So on that note, you guys have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow night. And I think I have the techno stuff figured out here, so we should be right on time. Good night, everyone.